It must be Thursday, and happy April Fools. But there's no fool in what we're going to talk about tonight. We are talking about prioritizing wellness. And as we all know, the last year has been one in which we could use a lot more wellness. So I'm actually wearing tonight my meditation robe under my jacket. I don't usually wear my jacket when I meditate, just the robe. But we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Thank you to International Broadcast Media TV for hosting the show. If you have not been to ibmtv.tv, fabulous site. We've got lots of awesome shows up there. Pretty much, it's a network of shows that may not be the kind of shows that you always see on television, on network, cable, etc. television. So come to Internet TV and join us. All right, we're going to get started by me bringing in my co-host. My co-host is an instructional strategy specialist with me at IDE, Innovative Designs for Education. And she's been with me for a bunch of years now. I want to say about 5 or so. She'll correct me if I'm wrong on that. But what's interesting about Gina is that she holds a master's degree in holistic health studies. She was originally, back in the day, a social studies teacher, and her focus in that was stress management techniques for middle school students. So one of our guests tonight was her professor. We'll see what that is later. But for now, please welcome Gina Vadola.
Hi, Mance. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
As I always refer to you. Gina Vadola, how are you?
Nancy Sulla, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Tell me about something you learned this week.
So I learned, I always listen to podcasts, and I was listening to a talk from the father of modern positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman, and he was talking about his theory of wellness theory and theory of flourishing individuals. And I was surprised to learn that cheerfulness is 50% genetically based. So it's 50% inheritable from your family.
So if you have cheerful parents, you may be a cheerful person.
Flip a coin, it's 50-50.
And for anybody out there who isn't cheerful, you're screwing up your kids. Well, that's good to know. I have extremely cheerful parents, so that explains a lot. So normally we have 3 directors behind the scenes. We have, well, actually 4, because we always have the infamous Gwen Fon from IBM TV who's with us. But we then have 3 directors from IDE. One of them, and if you've been watching the show, you hear their names. And one of them, Boyd Adelson, decided that he would take a vacation. You know, we figured he okay, he can go on vacation. We'll learn to live without him. But I thought it was funny because I'm stalking him on Facebook, of course. And I thought it was funny that he has decided to take up a hobby that pretty much describes what it is like to be a director behind the scenes at Learning Unwrapped. So let's take a look at what Boyd is doing. It's like, there he is, keeping all the balls in the air. Get to this one here. I'm pretty impressed. That's our director. I think it probably ties into his wellness, too, that he gets to be off the computer for a bit. All right, let's bring in our guests. We have a fabulous group of guests today. Our first guest spent 26 years as a corporate finance executive and then became a certified health and wellness coach, ditched the business world, and is the founder of a company called TK Inspirations, offering transformation coaching. She is the author of a number of books, including some of what you see here. A Year of ME, which is mindful eating to improve well-being, the 10 Days, a wellness retreat for personal transformation at home, and a wellness journey. She also writes a weekly blog called Mindfulness Matters, raising awareness for living a holistically healthy life. Please welcome Tanya Kinlow.
Hello.
Hello, Tanya. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Tanya. Welcome. So tell us, Tanya, what have you learned this week?
Okay, it's April 1st and it is snowing where I am. So I've learned that change is constant. Okay.
Wow. Where are you coming to us from?
Ohio, Cleveland.
And it's snowing there.
Wow.
But it was 70 degrees on Tuesday. Okay.
Woo.
But so aside from that, but see, because I try to keep it all aligned and wellness and I learned I make shea butters mostly as gifts. I sell them sometimes, but usually I just like to make them and give them. It's my hobby, my creativity. And I made a batch a couple weeks ago, but I didn't whip it. I like them to be whipped. And I put them in a container. So today I brought them out and they were so dense, they were heavy. So I learned today about the difference between volume and weight.
Wow.
Because when I whip the air in it, it's lighter, but it settled over those 2 weeks. So it was heavy. So when I was trying to put it, and so literally what I did, because of the snow, see, I try to work with the environment that's given to me. I actually went outside and got some snow and put it in a container. It was full. And when it melted, it was this much. So again, another lesson in the volume of light snow versus when it melted, it was this low. Again, because of health and wellness, spring and natural water is so healthy for you. I figured if it's going to snow on April 1st, I'm going to go get some. And use it for
I love that. And you know, one of the things that we do for a living is work with schools to engage students. And we do that through problem-based learning, having kids engage in real world problems. So all of you science teachers out there, you heard it here. Get your kids involved in creating shea butter recipes. And you can teach volume and weight and the difference. And what a wonderful, I hadn't thought about it until you just said that, Tanya. So that's pretty cool. Love it.
Yeah.
And all right, let's get our next guest in here. And our next guest actually was Gina's professor and chair at the time that she was getting her master's degree. In her early career, she was a physical therapist. She then became the chair of the Department of Integrative Health and Exercise Science at Georgian Court University. She is a board certified instructor for Tai Chi for rehabilitation. And I love that connection. She's a national board certified health and wellness coach. She has a lot of certifications. She's a certified clinical exercise physiologist by the American College of Sports Medicine. Fun fact, she loves making costumes for school musical productions. So I'm interested to see how that connects to the integrative health. Please welcome Dr. Sachiko Komagata.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sachiko Komagata.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. And one thing I'd like to share with you about what I learned this time. Yesterday, I had a class which I teach health and spirituality for undergraduate students. And so I was going through the class virtual like this. And how is everybody? And as much as I try to capture and trying to be welcoming and encouraging people to speak up, one student said, "Oh, I'm fine." And then I just took that word as literally, she's fine. But then toward the end of the class, I tore my meniscus. And how much limitation I'm putting myself. I still need to learn to be mindful of my ability to extract or to encourage people to speak up.
Yes.
I learned yesterday.
Yes, definitely. Well, that's a good lesson. All right. And we are going to bring our third guest and final guest here. Last but not least, our next guest has a passion for illustration, and it led to her creating adult coloring books, but in the most positive of ways. Jen says there is no roadmap to a creative life, and she's the author of many of these amazing coloring books, including Time to Hygge, which is a Danish art of happy living, Encouraging Rainbow, Garden Gnomes, National Parks. I'm definitely seeing some holiday gifts here. I Love Llamas. Joining us from San Diego, please welcome Jen Racine.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen. Welcome. So,
Thank
Jen,
you.
tell us something that you learned this week.
So this week was interesting because I finished up a coloring book and I was kind of doing some cleanup, and I've done illustration for a long time, but I've also done graphic design and a few other things. And I've kind of dabbled in trying to figure out my niche. So I had like a t-shirt shop and an Etsy shop that was selling okay, but not great. That was not Jen Racine, but another brand. And I said bye-bye to those things. So that was exciting. It was sort of like an unloading of extra things that I don't need to take care of anymore. So that was a really good centering thing for me to do this week that I learned from.
And that's certainly part of wellness, knowing when to just let go of the things that are cluttering your life. So
yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. And I welcome our live audience. We always have a wonderful live audience, some regulars and some people who pop in and out, to please join us because with comments and questions, because we will track. You need to know that we see your comments and questions about 30 seconds after you write them, but that's okay. We have a director whose sole job is to keep track of what you're talking about so that she can pop up questions and make sure that we hear good things. So many places I could go with wellness, but I am just going to start with, when you consider this past year and everything that everyone is going through, what are you seeing as the results of this past year? And what advice can you give for folks as we are trying to move out of the pandemic life and trying to get back to a new normal? What advice do you have for folks? Tanya, do you want to kick us off with that?
I'd love to. That's everything I'm talking about right now.
I bet.
Thank you. I'm seeing exhaustion, people being overwhelmed. We're just tired of it all. We're tired of the pandemic, of the politics, of the just isolation and social distancing. And it's just heavy. We're tired of our unemployment running out. We're just tired of every single thing. And so what I'm talking about in my wellness journey and the things that I coach on is 7 intentions to practice this. Really, it's what you believe. And you have to believe and know and understand that you can find happiness in the midst of any situation. And this environment we're in now is a perfect petri dish, right? So if you can find your center, your purpose, you can not judge, you can forgive, you can get some cleanliness in your body, you can do these things, then that other stuff won't bother you. You'll be fine if you sit on the couch and watch Netflix and not feel guilty. Because it's like getting away from the guilt and shame and body shame and all of that. So that's really where these 7 intentions I talk about, just being happy. It's holistic wellness.
That is so important, because one of the things I like to do is play games on my phone. And sometimes I'll be sitting there playing games on my phone and I'll be thinking, well, I should be cleaning the house. Well, I should be, doing this. Well, I should be doing that. And then I stop and I say to myself, it's Saturday. Have fun. And then I'll say, right. Oh, I should go down and swim, but I don't want to go down and swim. I just want to sit here and play my games. So thank you. The idea that if you can center yourself in what makes you happy,
yes,
do it, and don't let the guilt fall in there.
That's what life's about.
That is. Sachiko, you want to add to this?
Sure. Thank you. Just like Tanya said, the importance of finding happiness in where we are currently, that I would like people to think that you have so much in your hands that you can do for yourself or not do to yourself. And also, I would like to encourage people to think that each one of us has that sort of like a healing essence within you, and you just have to tap into it. It's not that somebody is going to give you something, but rather you have so much within you already. And I would love to encourage people to remember and energize yourself to use that.
I love that. That's like the law of attraction, right? It's like attract what it is that you want, because it's there for you. We have much more power than we know. And too often we give up that power to oftentimes spirituality and religion. Now, you're going to hear over the break, that I'm a very spiritual, grounded person there, but I'm very mindful of the fact that God is not Santa Claus. It's not about me saying, oh, God, can I have this? Can I have this? Help me with this. But God has given us the ability, an amazing amount of energy and power to make our future happen. And I think that's something that a lot of folks don't get to tap into until they're much older, like me. Jen, what advice do you have for us?
I think similar to Tanya and Sachiko, it's just sort of, I think, well, for me, mindfulness and centering ourselves in this crazy time is sort of trying to find those quiet moments and being present. I think in the time that you have, you know. So it's just being in the moment, I think, to me is how, I find that quiet. So.
And when I think of the whole wellness piece, there's so many aspects of it. But before I go down yet another road, Gina, what do you want to add to this?
Well, I just have a few questions. I would love to hear a little bit more. Jen, I know that your coloring book, Signs of Hygge, right, speaks to me. And I know within our company, we've talked about setting up our Hygge space at home.
Yeah.
So I noticed the plant behind you. Everyone has a little Hygge in their home. Is there a tip when we're feeling a little overwhelmed or stressed, or a little isolated during this time, Jen, that you can maybe offer a suggestion to just create a little Hygge environment? What is your go-to?
And maybe give us a little background on Hygge for our audience who may not know.
So Hygge really is about simplicity, I think, more than anything, and finding joy in very simple things. I mean, that is the sort of Danish ideal, right? Is paring away things that, it's usually like, I would call it off-screen things, it's candles, it's warmth, it's probably animals, it's, just, firelight and sort of quiet moments versus anything big. And it doesn't have to be something expensive. It can be, plants are a perfect Hygge, caretaking of plants. So I think that we can all, find a little corner space. I mean, if you want to color, that is a perfect sort of quiet activity, especially with kids. And you mentioned you're coloring with your daughter. I think that I do some kids coloring books too. And I just find that is a really, having an off-screen, low demand activity to do with kids is really, that's a beautiful, Hygge moment, so.
And Jen, you'll be proud that I got your book and I've started here. So this is the one I'm working on. I hope everyone likes my coloring skills there. Where'd I go? Where is it? Here we go.
Very nice. Very nice. Love it.
I chose this one because I love books. So that just the picture itself made me happy. And of course, I always do the what's in your mug segment. So I had to get the cup in there. But it's interesting when I was raising my daughter who was in her teens and, come home from school, be stressed. I used to say to her, let's color. And the two of us would sit at the kitchen table coloring. And then we would hang our coloring on the refrigerator, and it's just so calming. And so even when I got your book and I haven't colored in a while and I sat down and started coloring, I'm like, oh, why did I ever stop coloring? Because it does just make you feel good. So I hope people rush to Amazon.com and look you up and start buying your coloring books. So the best is, go ahead.
No, I told Nancy earlier, Jen, I said, I bought a coloring book for my daughter. And she said, but they're adult coloring books. And I said, well, but I bought Among Us. And my daughter loves to take over our IDE game nights and play Among Us with everyone. So we usually have doodle time where we just draw or sketch after dinner. So instead, we will be coloring your Among Us coloring book.
And that's
That's
you know,
so funny.
it's true. We play Among Us, and if her daughter is in the room, she's like, "Give me the phone, give me the phone!" Like, I've got to play. So yes, if you're an Among Us fan out there, you know, you definitely want to get that coloring book. Gina, keep going. You said you had a few questions.
I wanted to take something that Sachiko said, and really was a culmination of our three guests in saying that the healing comes from within. And I know that Tanya's written a few books, and she also has, she leads these wellness retreats, and she has one coming up April 10th, I believe. So could you tell us, you mentioned your 7 intentions, but could you tell us really, working with a wellness coach and you leading these wellness retreats, because I think this is something that will pull a lot of people right now, right? Where we're still in COVID, you know, more than a year later, there's still restrictions. So this appeals to me, and I think other people as well. What would they expect in these weeks of working with you through this wellness retreat?
Oh gosh, a transformation. Okay, so I talk about these 7 intentions. All of them in themselves are fantastic, but when you put them together in a concentrated amount of time, right, then it's just exponential. It's explosive. And the 7, so because you build the space, we talked about the noise of the world and the craziness, it allows you to go within, like we talked about, right, and build the space to connect with your higher divine power to make the right decisions. So that brain fog goes away. You're more confident about what you're doing. And the 7 intentions are meditation, exercise, mindful eating, self-care, daily affirmations and journaling, kindness and gratitude, and rest. And I have a bit of a formula. And so we talk about each of those in depth over the 8 weeks so we can get grounded, because it's not something that you just intellectually know. Wellness and health is about doing and being. And I just want to say too, I'm gonna go get Jen's coloring book, because I got one of my very good friends sent me a coloring book of mandalas last year for my birthday. It's the only one I've had. I love it. It is a meditation.
Yes.
And since then, I bought my mother a coloring book, just something random. But now I have someone to go to, because that gives you space and calmness to then be able to make the decision. So on this journey, we go through these things. I do a coaching session one-on-one with people. They can have the book for more detail, but we go through, and it's interactive. So I want people to talk about what's going on with them so we can have real world issues that we can talk about. And I talk about spirituality a lot, not religion. Health and wellness is a holistic thing, and not that it's separate from religion, but it's all about health and wellness and well-being holistically. So I hope you'll join me.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And it's 8 weeks. You do it over the course of 8 weeks, did you say?
Yes, we start on Saturday, April 10th. At 1:00 for 90 minutes. In the first part, I'm talking, and then we open it up for questions and conversation for 8 weeks. And then we'll do a 10-day period that I call an at-home retreat. So you can practice these at home, meditate in the morning, in the evening. For mindful eating, I have a mnemonic. It's no WASP, WASP, no white flour, alcohol, sugar, or processed food for 10 days.
All right.
You're cleaning, and it goes along. So there's different components of all of these 7 intentions.
So like, no.
I'm with you, Dr. Nancy. I'm a rhino. I'm not going to lie.
I got the book, Tanya.
Yay!
I'm going to start my 10 days.
Yes. And even if you get those one thing that, like, you don't, if you drink alcohol, that's 1 point off. You still got the rest of your life. Mistakes are just things. It's okay.
And I'm going to join you on the 6-week journey. So I'll be there.
Awesome.
Gina.
Now, Sachiko, you have, speaking of all of these different paths and journeys to wellness, you have this intergenerational healing program that you started with a few colleagues at the university. And I know it's slowed down because of COVID, but you're starting to bring it back up. Could you tell us about that? That really interested me.
Sure. So, the demographics tell us that the seniors are segregating, kids are segregated, that intergenerational interactions are diminishing over decades. So, along with my colleagues, we said, okay, we're going to approach the older adult community and then also the younger community, and let's connect them and coming up with the programming and see how that impacts their, health, well-being, mind, body, spirit. So that's basically the essence of it. And the frame is Ocean County, New Jersey. And that's where we are planning to implement this program. The actual activity we're going to do is really depending on the group we gather. So it's not fixed to, we're going to do meditation or what. We're not fixing or deciding what to do. But once we gather the two different groups together, we will come up with the intergenerational activity together. So that's where we are.
That's wonderful. And do you think that's because if I think back like to my grandparents' days, we tend to even live in the house together. Parents would have children, and the children and their children would all be living in the house or nearby in communities. We depended a lot on that family unit, but over time, and particularly in countries like the US, whereas people get more disposable income, they go off and they buy their own house, and they, and even like I grew up in a house where every kid had their own room, and then there were a couple more rooms. So you didn't even see each other in the family, Is that to what you are attributing, the fact that we're losing this intergenerational connection?
Yes, that's exactly so. That it's just the society, the overall society level, we have less opportunities for different generations to mingle and do something together. So,
and we move. As we grow and we have more disposable income, we decide we want to live here. So then we're moving away from the family, that core family. And I hadn't thought about that before, but that's a fascinating point that we need to find ways to get back to that. Now, are you all finding that we can make good use of this kind of, Zoom connections, video conferencing to get back some of what we've lost? What are the silver linings that we've had in the pandemic?
Yeah, so it's interesting that we actually now have an opportunity to connect even further out of the geographical boundaries because of the technology. So in some way we are expanding, and in another way we are still missing this physical interaction with other people. So I see that at this point in the pandemic status, I would need to create something virtual or outdoor activities in New Jersey. So that's where we are currently planning.
Right.
I would say I've moved all over, and my family is from DC and the East Coast. And I think, Sachiko, I just think what you're saying is so spot on, because now as I'm older, I wish I had more of that stability, because I see friends, they know their neighbors, they're into their aunts and uncles, they're like parents, second parents. And because I've moved around so much, I don't have that. But I can say with the pandemic, this technology, I'm actually up to date more with my family because we do regular Zooms,
right?
To stay together. And my parents are older, so it's that yin yang. So I'm just sort of finding the wellness in all of it.
Yeah.
One thing I like the pandemic brought back was letter writing is such a lost art. And when I was younger, when I was in college, I'd write back and forth with my grandmother and with my great aunt. And we brought that back, and my daughter and I sit down and we write letters to our family members and friends and send them. And just the smile you get when you receive a handwritten note in the mail is just irreplaceable. And just that little joy that we get from sending it, and then the phone call, to connect with the person, that's been a lot of fun. So that's one of the ways we've connected off screen when we haven't been able to connect in person with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that idea of that handwritten letter that's coming in the mail, we text, we email, but there's something about that handwritten letter that I think speaks of someone taking the time and going to extra energy in order to put something down, get it on paper, send it off to people. And I'm guilty of not doing that enough. Although I recently bought note cards and said, I need to start writing more to people. Mm-hmm. All of my friends out there, don't be holding your breath. I'm just,
Sachiko, you talked about geographic boundaries being brought down. And I know that globally you have right now you are launching this virtual tour of Japan, and you're leading, is it, and the name is escaping me, it's the healing techniques in Japan, healing and wellness.
Sure. Yeah.
Along with it?
Yes, absolutely. So we are taking our students and the GCU, Georgian Court University community to Japan next week, Monday through Friday. And so we go there, virtually, of course. There's a guide out there. And one of the healing techniques we will actually participate would be called Kiko, which is actually Qigong in Japan. So I met the Qigong master yesterday. We talked about, I'm supposed to interpret, so I just wanted to get the timing right, how she says it and I say it, and we make sure we are able to talk without overlapping. And so that's something we're going to do. And because it's pandemic, we are planning to do lungs, improving our lung function through this Qigong movement and the breath. And also she has something special for us to granting wishes. There is a movement and a spiritual practice that will help individual achieve their wishes. Attain their wishes. So that's something we're going to do this coming week.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is that through the university?
It is. We planned, yes, through the university. We have a global education programming office. And we were planning to go there physically, right? May. But since we can't go physically, we converted quickly to a virtual tour. And so 3 nights we go there, 1 hour each for 2 hours every evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. There is 9 a.m. in Tokyo. So we spend 2 hours every Wednesday, Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the Thursday, I cook Japanese food and people watch me cook. And then the Friday, we do not tea ceremony, but we do have a authentic tea garden at Georgian Court University. You visited us, actually. It's open to public. And so I do the tea, and my colleague will explain. That's
what I was just going to ask. For our friends who are in New Jersey or visiting New Jersey, you're saying that the public can go to Georgian Court University to get engaged in some of these activities, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
And is there a website? Is there something that people can find out more?
Let me see. For this particular, this coming up week, because there's a limit in who can come to the campus and how many people can be there. So just for this particular event, it's limited to the GCU community. But the tea garden is open to the public. So if anybody to New Jersey, please visit us. And you simply need to tell the gate, at the security gate, you would like to see the Japanese garden. And if you contact me, I'm happy to arrange so that I can even be a guide.
Well, I think we're all going to go meet up there, right?
We should do that.
The grounds are beautiful.
I'll be back in New Jersey in the summer, so I will definitely come up and see that. All right. Well, I can't believe we are already at 5:35, and it is time for What's in Your Mug. So this is where we just take a short break to say thank you again to International Broadcast Media TV, IBMTV.TV. And let's talk about what's in our mug. So live audience, and I've been watching the comments coming through. Lots of great conversations going on. And Tanya, a couple of shout outs for you. people who've been through your retreat. So that sounds like a good thing. Let's talk about mugs. So one of my silver linings to this pandemic was that a group of some of my, well, really, I guess my closest friends got together. I need my prop over here. And we actually had occasion to pray for a young woman that we know, a friend's daughter. And we just decided we were going to create a prayer vigil for her for something that she was going through health-wise. And we started meeting every night at 7:30. And we realized that we're not as religious as we are spiritual, but we each had different roots. And so, you know, we have someone in our group who is Catholic and is a big fan of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And so she had certain prayers, and we have a couple of people in our group who are Jewish. And of course, they brought certain prayers. And then we've got someone in the group who is much more into spirituality and meditating to the ascended spirits. And so she brings in her perspective, and we all just bring different perspectives. And we are known as the Faith Keepers. So we now actually have, there's just a group of 6 of us. We actually have our own hats. And as of yesterday, one of the Faith Keepers gave us each a mug, and it basically says, "Blessed are the Faith Keepers, the connections we all need."
Yes.
So to my Faith Keepers, I love you. We have now been together every night. Obviously, if somebody has to go someplace and we're not available, we skip a night, but we've been together since December 22nd, praying every single night. And we started with one young woman who is doing tremendously well, and we continue to hold her up in prayer. But we are now praying for about 30 people that are either going through health challenges or have lost someone or grieving. And we all feel so uplifted by the fact that we can send out this energy to others to help heal others. And, there's a Sanskrit mantra that we will chant, and that is part of our presenting energy out there to others for healing. And we just have a ball, and then we've got some great songs that we end up singing too. So we roll very unorthodox like, but I love you. All right, Jen, what's in your, oh, wait. Sorry, I forgot to tell you what's in my mug. So I have a combination of 2 teas. I like to mix a ginger tea with a fennel tea. And of course, when you get, as you may have heard on the show before, when you get the yogi teas, you get cute little, comments in here. So this says, "Let us be kind and compassionate to remove the sadness of the world." All right, Jen, what's in your mug?
All right. So I have my cute little, let me turn it the right way, llama mug here.
Oh, there's a coloring book for that.
Which is, my connection is this coloring book, I Love Llamas, was my very first foray into the coloring book world. And I just got over 1,000 reviews on Amazon for this. So it's very fun. And I'm just incredibly grateful for this book. And I'm drinking sencha, Japanese green tea, which I love. And it's sort of connected to my latest book, actually. So my family, we are obsessed with Japan, just so you know.
You should come to Japan with me next year.
We wanted to go, but we were planning, and then the pandemic hit. And anyway, so my son is very much anime and manga and all that stuff. So anyway, my latest book is Cosplay Cats with my cute little anime kitty cat right here, which is a fun kind of a kid's book.
Wonderful.
So, and now sometimes you should have fun with coloring too. It's okay to laugh.
You should. And I love how the show brings people together, because now you've got Sachiko to get in touch with before you head out to Japan, because she'll give you a tour.
That would be wonderful.
All right, Tanya, what's in your mug?
Okay, let me just start by saying, in this health and wellness, in this spiritual way, and I love Dr. Nancy, I love what you and your group you're doing. We're all connected. And when you're in the right place, because one of the languages that the universe uses is synchronicity.
Yes.
So I have a mentee, a friend. She used to work for me, who lives in Japan now. She's from Turkey, but she's an expat in Japan. And I just happen to have here on my desk. She sent me a box of all types of goodies from Japan. And this was a Christmas ornament, I believe. And she sent me maps and everything for the holidays. It was the most thoughtful gift I ever had. It probably cost her $100 just to put it in the mail. And I happen to be drinking green tea she sent me from Japan. And it's different than our green tea. I mean, it tastes wonderful, but you only have to dip the bag like 6 times and then put it away. And I'm drinking it in my special mug from my best friend gave to me. True friends are hard to find, difficult to leave, and impossible to forget. So all wonderful things and all this synchronicity. This is such a beautiful space. I'm just so happy.
Wonderful, right? I see a real theme and going on.
Yeah.
So Sachiko, what is in your mug?
Sure. So I didn't realize we had a hidden theme here. This is a sushi tea cup that if you go to sushi place in Japan, you tend to see this kind of cup. There's no handle. And here what it says in ideogram, there are 48 different kind of fish that Japanese people eat and get from the ocean. And inside I have matcha, the powdered green tea.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And isn't that kind of doesn't that give you a lot of energy, matcha?
Well, matcha is actually, it's a costly tea, meaning that to make a little bit of powder, you need a lot of tea leaves. So it's usually much more expensive. In terms of energy, well, depending on how much you take, right?
That's true.
Sencha is also can be strong. So it could be equivalent with sencha Jen is enjoying.
Gotcha.
As the matcha.
So my friend sent me some matcha also. And Sacha, I didn't know what I was doing. And I used like a whole teaspoon. Oh my gosh. And it has caffeine in it. And too, so I was like, oh my God. So I have to like read directions.
Right. A quarter of a teaspoon may be enough for a cup.
Now I know.
So Tanya, what did you learn today? Gina, what is in your mug?
Well, my mug, I bought a home about a month before the pandemic hit. So my sister bought me this mug, Home is Where the Heart Is. And because it was quite a long journey. Shout out to my sister who already said hi in the beginning of the show. She's watching from sunny Florida. And I'm drinking. I am drinking my Costa Rican blend from a local coffee shop called Rook. There are actually quite a few now, but they're childhood friends that left the corporate world, like Tanya, which we still have to hear about your story. And they were tired and they didn't want the rat race and they left and they opened up this little coffee shop on the corner of my street. And now they own quite a few. And it's an amazing place. I love getting my coffee in the morning. And I've even brought coffee to a few people up at the office when we were in the office.
I know you're a big Rook fan. Do you have a website?
It is rook.com.
Rook.com. Spell that for us. ROOK. .com. Can you order online?
You can order online. They ship everywhere now.
All right. So if you want to get in on Gina's favorite coffee shop, rook.com. Awesome. Gina, you want to throw out the question to get the conversation restarted?
I definitely do. And I think that I'm going to ask everyone individual questions. I know we usually do a common one. But Tanya, I'm dying for you to tell everyone your story. You were in corporate finance 26 years and washed your hands, left it behind, and now you are an amazing transformational coach and leader and author. So tell us about that journey.
You said it like your friends, right? I think everyone comes to a place in their life. It's what we're meant for. I said it before. We're meant to live a happy life. We're meant to be here. We all have purpose. And you get to a point when you're like, is this it? And so how much money do I need to make, or what promotion do I need to get, or how many hours do I work when I can't take vacation and spend time with my family or go see my parents? And I got to that point, and then that's when it led me into meditation and thinking about the value of life. And so I had this idea for a business, and we went on vacation. And when I came back, I did my bills and put in, I think I gave him 3 or 4 weeks notice. I was that motivated. But I could tell you also, it just wasn't that time. 10 years ago, my kids were in a car accident, and my son is quadriplegic now. And my daughter, my ex, everyone was very supportive, and very, very hard time. And when you see your children in that way, it's like, oh my gosh. And so it really was, and so many friends and family came in to be supportive. And you realize when you think life is over, it's not. And my son, he speaks on the kindness and gratitude intention for my journey, because he has so much gratitude for life, even being paralyzed. When you hear him, you will be inspired. You'll be like, these little problems I have. And so they're nothing, and my daughter the same way, they've just overcome so much. So it's funny how the parent becomes the student and the children can become. And so that was 10 years ago. And then 5 years ago, I'm like, y'all are stressing me out. And I've been stressed out more than this before. What are y'all, this isn't happening again. And so I just, with my spiritual journey and the spirits and the love, it came, and I was able to have the courage to say nothing worse can happen to me than what's happened, So I'm going to do what needs to be done. And I've been uplifted ever since. And this sense of mindfulness is what I know. You can overcome tragedy. You can find happiness in the midst of chaos. And I talk and teach about that, because I don't want people to have to go to some tragedy or to the bottom to be able to find this happiness. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. So
Right. Wonderful.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Jen, you have, speaking of children, you have 2 teenagers, correct?
I do.
And all of you are very artistic in your family? Creative?
Yeah, I would say we all have a artistic bent. I would call us like a non-traditional. My husband's a writer too, so we're just off doing weird stuff.
So is there advice for you to give? I know there are parents and teachers out there who we don't really utilize the creative outlets we have, or they weren't cultivated when we were young, or we don't cultivate our own. So I learned to move away from saying, I can't draw that, or I can't draw too. Oh, let's try to draw this, right? Because it frames the I can't. So do you have advice for parents or teachers who don't have that bit of creativity or that artistic ability to cultivate the creative lens or creative ideas in their own children?
I think that is a really interesting question. And for me, I think that especially with kids, you never want to put limitations on what they draw or what they're creating. My son draws some crazy stuff, but to me, it is fascinating. And without putting limitations on what he's drawing and seeing, just go with that, I think kids absorb criticism very acutely too. Yes. So I think you just have to encourage, and don't put any limitations on what they're drawing or how they're coloring, even like with coloring books. I mean, color outside the lines, for God's sakes, do what you want. And that's my advice, I guess.
In my consulting, I don't like lined paper. And like if I'm working with a client and I try to, find out what is it they're trying to do, I keep an art pad with me, and then I just start drawing, and it could be circles and Venn diagrams and whatever, but I feel so much more creative if I'm not constrained by lines. So I must have been that kid who was like always coloring outside the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nancy gave me a beautiful book. On the front, it says Just Breathe, and it's a lineless book. And I always said, and now I cringe thinking of it, when I was in the classroom, I can't draw. I'm not a good drawer. And I shifted when I listened to The Elephant and Piggy, when I started reading my daughter the books, and he started having these YouTubes right in the beginning of COVID or, last winter. And that's when I started sitting down with my daughter and saying, let's doodle, let's just draw. And I took Nancy's book, this was sitting on my shelf blank for a while, and I just started drawing, if they were lines or dots or a word, to cultivate my own creativity that I hadn't for so many years. So that Nancy says she never has lined paper, and it's always just, and the most creative things come of it. And I think having people and having mentors like that in my life that are more creative, it just helps me realize that I need to shift when I speak to younger people, when I speak to my child, of how to really start to cultivate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sachigo, now you have a partnership. You are, and I have to look, a professional liaison for the partnership with Hackensack Meridian Health. So now you're offering this summer, which this is fascinating, continuing education courses, a course for nurses on radical self-care coaching.
That's correct. Right.
Right?
Yes, that's a really exciting prospect, and the date is not determined. So it's going to be in the summertime. So if you come back to our Georgian Court website, we will have that event page set up soon.
So what is radical self-care?
Yeah, so basically, I will not take this credit because my colleague, Suzanne McMurray, who created this program, and she has her own center, but she also belongs to Georgian Court as a part-time faculty. So she's kind enough to offer that course to through the professional studies unit at Georgian Court with the Hackensack Meridian. And what it is, radical self-care, well, we could talk about all kinds of modalities and methods of relaxation and healing. However, it is often the individual may not have the idea about how can I put everything together? How am I going to actually actualize what I know already? So this curriculum, this program, is done by two instructors, not me. I am just a supporter. I'm kind of helping out. And so two instructors provide the framework of how to put the planning process in place so that anything you learn as a method of healing, you can incorporate that into your unique self-care plan, if that makes sense, or do you need elaboration?
Wow. All right.
Great.
Lots of ideas that are coming out here that I hope our audience is grabbing onto, and I see too our audience has added in some of their what they're doing as well. So important in this time. I want to shift to kids, and what I do for a living is, I have been drawn to changing the world through education since I was 5 years old. So I've been on this journey since I was 5 years old. And I've had a couple of detours now and then kept saying like, no, but I'm meant to be doing this. So I always come back to it. And what we noticed, I have a framework that I've designed called the Learner Active Technology Infused Classroom. And it's all about putting kids in charge of their own learning. And what I found is that through the pandemic, when schools closed, the kids were able to just go home, keep working. The teachers went home, kept working. And yeah, there were some bumps along the way, but by and large, because I'm all about empowering students to be efficacious, they were able to just continue on with their education. So now a lot of schools are talking about learning gaps and how do we make up for the learning gaps? And I've been doing a lot of speaking from my living room, happily, I'm kind of fond of doing, I was in Dubai last week, and then I was out in California, and all from my living room. So I'm living the dream. But I've been speaking about something called academic resilience, and the idea of how do we position students to be able to be academically buoyant, which are things like, I'm working on an activity and I don't know what to do and I'm stuck. Do I just, slam my books down, stomp out of the room, quit, or, do I power through in some way? And then academic resilience being the bigger things. If I have learning disabilities, if I'm living in extreme poverty, if I'm in a situation where there is significant oppression, how do I continue to power through? When you hear of people who have kind of come out of these tremendous, and in a way, Tanya, even talking about your son coming out of tremendous challenges, and yet still being able to learn and power through, et cetera. And so I've been asking schools, if you think about it, we have had a very teacher-dependent model in schools where kids are waiting to have teachers tell them what to do, what book to take out, whatever. And that the core of education has been lessons. The only way for kids to learn is for the teacher to give a lesson. And it depends on compliance. And as long as the kids are compliant, everybody thinks everything is fine. And the reality is that fell apart in the pandemic. Yet in designing classrooms that are more student dependent, providing opportunities and access and letting the kids take charge of their own learning and the kids be engaged, I think that path on the right builds tremendous wellness. So as we think about advice to both parents and teachers, what advice would you give them for helping children experience greater wellness?
So let me just jump in, because when I saw what was on there, it's just like what I talk about in the wellness journey, how to find happiness in the midst of chaos. And you said chronic situations. It's the same thing. Right. So living intentionally, I wish I knew what I know now 20 years ago when my kids were younger.
Sure.
And so as a parent putting this into the household, but even as a school system, as in what you believe in, your ability to overcome things, to be creative and choose different systems. The old competitive system wasn't necessarily working anyway. I find the perfection, and this is what the wellness inspirational teach you, to find perfection in all things, that there's good in all things, even what the bad or the challenging things. And so what this pandemic has taught us, what this new schooling has taught, it's the rocks. We see the rocks now. And so now, creativity, collaboration, that's holistic wellness. The system we had wasn't working all that. So now we can see that. So my advice is to keep doing what you're doing, to bring in these intentions into the home and into the school. Let creativity be the way. And that spiritual place is not just about competition and beating this person. It's about kindness, compassion, love, gratitude, self-care.
Right. Jen?
I can go on, but I'm going to stop.
I'm thinking I'm having two kids at home right now going through this journey in the last year and a half. So I kind of have this perspective of this in the here and now. And I see a lot of, in terms of like taking ownership of the work, that has just grown exponentially versus in person, where it's like getting the worksheet, finishing it, turning it in. It's a little bit more, it's much more self-centered, I guess, for thinking of the right words here. And also like accessibility has been an amazing thing. So, because not every kid is designed to go to school every day, and it's been, for one of mine, a really amazing thing to not have that pressure. So, I'm not sure if this answers the question or not.
No, it's a good perspective. It's a good perspective.
So I think, that journey of just finding that middle ground for all kids has been an amazing thing to see.
And perhaps let it be a winding path.
Yes.
Sachiko.
Well, first off, Nancy, you have to visit our daughter's school system and everywhere in New Jersey. You have to come. Or maybe I should buy your book and send it to the school district. I really love the idea of crossing out with teacher dependent to moving on to student dependent. I really value that so much that my advice to the situation currently would be not pointing the fingers to the school and the teachers, but I will point the fingers to the parents. That the parents may need to reframe their mindset, similar to what Nancy already showed on the slide, that your child has capability. Your child has such tremendous potential. So can we depend on your child as opposed to the curriculum? That's my kind of idea.
Well, that's what I say. Instead of the core of learning being lessons from the teacher, it should be the curiosity and drive of the students.
Absolutely.
And I looked at the pandemic like this is an opportunity to really pull off what I've been trying to do for 30 years, which is shift teaching and learning to be more student-centered and be driven by students. And what's interesting is I was saying to teachers, I have this approach, the 5-5-5-5 approach to learning. And I've been saying to teachers, do not just live stream lessons. There are much better ways. Okay, we got a picture up here. You can see in the lower right. There are much better ways to have synchronous engagement than live streaming lessons. And then we had districts that were saying to us, our parents are demanding live streamed lessons. So if you're a parent out there, stop that, because that is not the best way to learn. So we've got to open up to possibilities. And I don't want to say, it's a balance of giving up control. I don't want it to be that the kids are running the classroom and the teachers have no control. That's not what it is at all. It's really about, I like to use the metaphor of a swimming pool. A swimming pool has some boundaries. It's got some rules in it. But then pretty much just go and swim. And I think that's what classrooms should look like. All right, I say this every week. My audience must be tired of hearing me say oh my God, we could go on for another hour. Soon my producers are going to say, just make it a 2-hour show and stop your whining. But I think I'm going to end by asking you for your one word that you would like to share with the audience. So as we think about embracing wellness, my one word is possibilities. Sachiko, what's your one word?
Compassion.
Gina, what's your one word?
Reflection.
Jen, what's your one word?
I think I have to say Hugo, right?
Oh, wait, where is it again? Like this. Hugo. Tanya, what's your one word?
God.
Love it. So I hope, live audience, thank you for being here. I love Julia just wrote, just keep swimming. I think that's a good one. That's what we need to do. I hope that, live audience, you have enjoyed the show. I hope that you will be looking up Jen's coloring books. I hope that you will be considering Tanya's retreat. I hope that you will visit Georgian Court University, the Japanese Garden, and learn more about the opportunities that exist there. Thank you so much for being my guests tonight. You guys were wonderful. We have to do this again, maybe in Japan next time. And Tina, thank you for being a wonderful co-host. I appreciate you bringing your holistic, you had actually said that your degree is in holistic health, but it has been renamed now to integrated health. So thank you for bringing that to the table. And as always, we're going to end with the kids of IDE. So you guys are going to head backstage. I'll be with you in just a minute. And to the live audience, thank you for being here as always. To International Broadcast Media TV, thank you. This show is not possible without the amazing people behind the scenes. Gwen Fahn, the director from IBM TV, Boyd Adolfson, who's off juggling instead of being backstage, Lauren Franceschi and Dr. Carrie Gantner, our directors behind the scenes. So thank you so much for making it all happen. Next week, we are going to be talking about social entrepreneurship. And we've got some amazing guests who are social entrepreneurs that are going to share their stories. So I hope you'll join me again next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Because if it's Thursday, well, it's Learning Unwrapped. So here we go. The kids of IDE, take us away. Goodbye, guys.
I take care of myself in a lot of ways, like doing yoga, eating healthy food, and also meditating. What do you do to take care of yourself?
I also like to meditate because it gives me a positive mindset and helps me focus when needed.
Broccoli and carrots, they're my favorite items for dinner and lunch, and I love them. They're my favorite. Give me strength.
I support wellness by playing with my friends and neighbors and riding my scooter and my bike. I also eat vegetables and drink lots of water. I like to go outside and play with my dog.
I love to play with my friends and teachers. They make me so happy because I miss them and I love them. And I pray to God and I pray for them. What I do to stay healthy is run around. If I am stressed or I am sad, I would use my stress ball. I can take a bubble bath and just make myself feel good and put good things in my head. I walk with my neighbors, I eat healthy, and I'm not a picky eater like my brother. Thanks for watching Learning Unwrapped. Tune in next week to talk about entrepreneurships. Social entrepreneurships. Social entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurships. Entrepreneurship or ships? Entrepreneurships. I mean ship. Come on. Entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship.